I think all of us have been waiting for this, right? All of us have been waiting for that thing that was going to help. It didn't matter how good and clean and your diet was and your lifestyle habits and whatnot was. It was people couldn't catch up to their health. They were all slowly declining in their health. And now we have something that truly takes out these stuck, trapped forever chemicals, these mycotoxins, these heavy metals, these BPAs, PFAs, whatever you're doing in your life, you're not getting out these accumulating toxins. We are breathing in toxins. They can find in every air test across the world some type of heavy metals in the air. It's rampant in our soil. It's nothing that is refutable. And going into our human body at this new nano level is destroying our population from the inside of our cells out. And Masterpiece is specifically designed to combat that and to protect us so that we can be our best version.
Welcome to Soccer and Sisters podcast. And we're back here to tell you about getting real, about reclaiming your health, your power, and your truth. I'm your host, Angela Atkins of yourhealthunbound.com. And today I'm beyond excited to introduce two women who have been biohacking in their blood, Lauren Sambataro and Renee Belz. They're the dynamic sister duo behind the Biohacker Babes podcast, and we're here to talk all things wellness, womanhood, and what it means to live in radical alignment with your body. Let me introduce you to these two powerhouse women. They're redefining what it means to take ownership of your health. Lauren and Renee, aka the Biohacker Babes, grew up in a health-focused home with their father, Gene Sambataro, a pioneer in holistic dentistry and one of the earliest biohackers before the term was even existed, who you may remember from episode 63. Now, Renee is a certified nutritional consultant, a holistic lifestyle coach, and a practitioner trained in everything from adrenal health to detoxing mercury and Epstein-Barr. She's all about personalized nutrition and helping clients ditch the one-size-fits-all myth. Lauren, a Broadway performer, is also a corrective exercise specialist and a functional health coach. She combines performance, science, and spirit to help clients break through pain and burnout using diagnostic testing and simple, powerful biohacks. So together, they host the Biohacker Babes podcast, where they teach people how to tap into their body's natural healing abilities, sharpen their intuition, and take radical responsibility for their wellness. I want to welcome both Laura and Renee to the show.
Thank you, Angela, for having us.
Excited. It's great to have you here. Yeah. So you both grew up immersed in holistic health, which is incredibly rare these days. I want to start with, how did that shape your careers and your sense of identity? How did it, give your sense of, did you even have rebellion about your own wellness journeys, having to live that way your whole life?
I don't think so. I don't know that we really knew any different growing up. And the biohacks that our dad had in the living room, which we just thought were weird and funny, we didn't really understand what they were, but we were exposed to them. I don't remember any rebellion. I'm curious to hear if Renee has any memory of that. I think the edge that we really got growing up this way is that when we got older and experienced our health challenges, we knew that there were like a million possibilities and that there were answers to what conventional medicine often says there is, one route or, a pill for this ill. And if you do get a no, or you don't get an answer, that's sort of like the end in conventional medicine, where we just were taught that there was more discovery. We were taught to be curious. We were taught to listen to our bodies and optimize our bodies. And I think that's the edge that we have over other people, or other people don't know that there's another way. You say, like, have you done anything naturally for your pain? And they're like, is there something besides ibuprofen, or is there something besides taking like an acid reflux med? And so we saw this total other like world of possibility. And I think that's really what we gained from growing up that way, is that we were open-minded to more opportunity.
Yeah, I think maybe the rebellious side. I do remember a few times sneaking a bag of candy home from like Chuck E. Cheese or something and hiding it under my bed. It wasn't
Yeah.
too often, but I mean, we grew up in the 90s where we still had, fruit snacks and gushers, some of those things, but no soda and candy in the house was pretty much always a rule. And it was interesting because as kids we kind of watched our parents try different diets and things. Like I remember our parents doing like a water fast and then a fruitarian diet and a vegan diet. It was the 90s, so that's kind of what was all the rage at the time, but we didn't really understand it. It was just kind of setting the stage for, oh, there's different things you can do with your lifestyle that could make you healthier or less healthier. And then we both went off to college, and I think I forgot a little bit of what I learned at home because I did kind of fall into the freshman 15 of eating terrible college food for one semester, and then I bounced back and realized that doesn't work out so well. But yeah, they really set the stage for us to just stay, I think, open minded to the holistic health and more options out there.
Well, it sounds like you never really questioned or pushed back against the whole concept of holistic health. It was just natural to you, having grown up with it, and both parents following that lifestyle. So is there maybe one wellness belief that from your upbringing that you've completely redefined for yourself, that you've made it your own, that goes beyond maybe what you were taught at home?
Yeah, I think in general, I think it's pretty pervasive for most kids as they go into adulthood, and then even more so for females, that we're not really taught to listen to our bodies, even though we had access and exposure to all these holistic therapies and opportunities. I don't remember really being taught like to question what a symptom or a feeling was, or to, I guess, dig deeper in that way. It was still a little bit like, oh, you're experiencing this. We could do this to fix that, right? So in a way, I guess you could say in some ways it was replacing the pill for ill. It just was a more natural way. We're not adding more toxicity or burden to the body. We were accessing a natural remedy. But in terms of like being my best health guru, I don't remember learning that. So that's something I've really worked on and redefined as I've gotten older, is like, oh, I am the medicine. I can access the answers myself. I just have to really get quiet. And that's something Renee and I really work on getting quiet. So doing less, being more, so that we get that natural intuition and that natural intelligence that we all have inside of us, which I just don't think that children, and I don't know that humans are taught that in general in our culture. So that's definitely something, like a skill we've refined as we've gotten older and older.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think it also helps maybe that neither of us had health issues growing up, so I think there wasn't a lot of discussion of that. The only thing I really remember was we both did ballet and we had a lot of injuries and pain. And so I know the solution was always red light therapy, PEMF therapy, arnica. I always had arnica in my dance bag, and all my ballet friends were like, "Is that like Advil?" I'm like, I don't think so. But it's for pain. I didn't really understand, but that's what I
Yeah.
had. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I recall the days of my children being in, ballet class, and a lot of the same things that you just treated the symptom. You had pain, you took something for it, a pill of some kind. So it's interesting that not only holistic but homeopathic remedies were already part of your lifestyle from a childhood. That, again, exceedingly rare. But you brought up intuition. And I also know that you use science as part of what you do with your clients. So is there some sort of, I'm going to use the word tension, not meaning that it's bad, but like a block in some way that you have to get by between your intuition and the data you find from the testing? So how do you balance that out? Because your biohacking is data driven, from what I understand, but intuition is unmeasurable. How do you get by any conflicts?
Ooh, that's tough. I think that's where we really employ sort of this biohacking way of an N of one experiment. We try to overlay the subjective with the objective data. So looking at hard markers from lab work or from data wearables like sleep trackers, activity trackers, with like subjective reported symptoms. How do I feel when I wake up in the morning? How is my energy throughout the day? How does my digestion feel? Those things, just paying attention to that, and whether you actually put it on paper or even just spend the time to acknowledge and have that conversation with yourself. I think it's tricky. It's definitely, it takes time to experiment and work through it, and it's a practice and it's a skill. But I think the more that we can integrate both the subjective and the objective, then at the end of the day, then it just becomes like you and your body, what's best for you. Because I don't know that even like, I don't know how accurate wearables are. Aura, we love Aura, but they're always making updates. So it's like, oh, was what they were reporting before totally wrong? Because now they're saying, oh, we really got it now. Do they really got it now? Or is there going to be another update that says like, oh, before we didn't have it? And same with labs, we're collecting massive data on a mass population. And of course we have functional lab ranges, but do we still know everything in terms of what's optimal for the greatest longevity for male, female, age, environment? I think there's just so much we still don't know. And so I think it's really important that we always come back to the self-experiment. And at the end of the day, it's like, what works for you? What makes you feel best? And what are your goals? Where are you trying to get? So it's a complicated experiment, but yeah, we try to merge the two as much as possible.
So if I can respond to that before I turn to Renee and ask her, I find what you were saying is true. The labs themselves are in a range of people who have whatever it is you're looking at. So they're already on the ill side. They already have dis-ease. And so those numbers, how are they true? And that's, for me, when I have clients that bring me their lab results, I say, okay, let's look at them as a reference point, but how do you feel? The same thing, because the numbers can skew widely. I mean, I still have people coming to me, well, my cholesterol is this, and I'm like, throw that away. Stop worrying about that, because people are so focused on the numbers that I feel like they lose the sense of themselves. How do you feel? How does that make you feel? Because a number only is just a data point. It has nothing to do with you. How do you feel about it, Renee?
Yeah, I think with labs and wearables, I think the trends are what are so important. So maybe, okay, your cholesterol gets flagged as high. Okay, but what was it 6 months ago? What was it 12 months ago? Are we seeing this rapid increase, or do you just tend to kind of float a little bit above the 200 mark? What's quote unquote normal for you?
Which
And
is
same.
arbitrary, the 200 mark. Where did
It
we get
is.
that number from?
Well, right. That's a whole other thing. The numbers. Yeah. Or like, fasting glucose. Well, you're at 99, so you're fine, because you're one below the range that gets flagged, so, but is that really ideal? But also with the wearables, the trends are really important too, because they're not 100% accurate. So don't get, hung up on, oh, I only got 15 minutes of deep sleep last night. Okay, well, what is your trend? Are you usually getting around an hour? Did you do something different that one night? The trends over time are really where the magic happens. And then I think, like Lauren was saying, the subjective part, looking at the data and then saying, how do I feel? But people really struggle with this because I think we're so fast paced all day, every day. And when you're going like that, your body's not, you're not going to hear what your body is telling you. So I think finding the quiet time, I think in the morning and before bed seem to be really great times because your brain waves are optimized for that. And just say, hey, okay, my Aura ring says this is how I slept, but how do I think I slept? And then that takes time to really kind of match the subjective and objective, months, if not years.
Yeah. And I find most clients can't answer that. I mean, even for myself, it as Renee said, it takes time to be able to answer your own questions. But when I ask a client that question, how do you feel? I find most of the time if I haven't been working with them for very long, their default is it'll be either a lab number, or they'll sort of divert and go to, well, I did this, or this happened to me. They're always kind of dancing around what they feel. It's so hard for someone to actually listen and find out what their body is trying to tell them. So again, really creating the space to do that. And because you brought up like cholesterol, I find cholesterol and thyroid on labs are like the two things that always come back where people are like, oh, thyroid and cholesterol out of range? One, were you looking at a functional range? Two, are those the two most common out of range markers because we have medications? We can just go here, take this right away. Like no one ever comes to me and goes, oh, my liver markers were out of range. My digestive markers were out of range. My magnesium was out of range. No one ever says that ever. So we do have to look beyond the easy reportable data that often is, it's just the beginning of that journey.
Yeah, and I think that's the cause could be the direct consumer marketing of all these medications, that people hear these things and it's constantly reinforced because it's on television, which is their usual method of receiving medical information. And then the doctor that they go to, typically, especially an allopathic doctor, will reinforce that. Yep, that's exactly right. Where cholesterol in the 1800s could be 300. And they were perfectly fine. And people aren't researching, people aren't looking, they're just going and expecting someone to tell them what to do. And I think that's where it's different with you guys. It's not just this is what you should do. You're working with them so they learn their own biohacking. It's not you do what I tell you, you go figure it out for yourself. And I think that makes a big difference.
That's the great success for us as practitioners and podcasters and educators. We want people to be able to do it on their own. I mean, I'll handhold for a little bit, but my end goal is like, you don't need me anymore because I've taught you how to listen to your body. Now you have a built-in coach. You are your own coach because that lasts forever, a lifetime.
Yeah, that's perfect. So has there ever been a biohacking fail, something that went totally wrong? And what did it teach you?
Renee?
Oh gosh. A fail? I have to think about that. Lauren, do you know one off the top of your head? Or maybe you know one of me.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just bulletproof coffee for you. That's not a device, but yeah, and we could think of maybe tech that maybe just hasn't made us feel any different. It might be good for other people, but hasn't moved the needle. So then we have to discern, like, are we going to do 20 biohacks in the day, or are we going to do the 3 that make the most sense for us? But did you want to talk about the coffee?
Sure. Yeah, about 15 years ago when bulletproof coffee was really popular, I fell into that camp, doing if anyone's not familiar with that, it's the 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of MCT oil in your cup of coffee. And that was during your 16-hour fast. And I was doing that, with keto and doing CrossFit every day. And I just completely burned out. That was in my mid 20s, when I should have been doing all of the opposite things for my body. That, it was a learning lesson. So I think that's just the big learning lesson, is to not follow, the trends on social media or, especially as women, I was listening to Dave Asprey. He's a man that is 10 years older than me, much different physiology going on there. I don't need to be doing the same things as him. So that was a really big learning lesson. And then also, like Lauren said, we love to test out different biohacks, but we want to share that information with the world to say, hey, these are the pros and cons of this. We think if you're looking for something like this, this could work for you. If you're not, probably a waste of money. We hope that we can save people time and money by doing all the experiments and seeing what potentially could work for someone. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot.
Well, you bring up a perfect thing that I wanted to talk about, fads. These things get overhyped. And it over years, I mean, I come from way back where it was fen and all those other things that people just ran for it. Well, what do you think nowadays, currently is being overhyped, that people, they shouldn't be using it, but they're paying too much attention to it?
I would say cold plunging and GLP-1s probably in this moment.
You want to do a little bit on cold plunging so people understand?
Yeah, so cold plunging, which is a hormetic stressor. A hormetic stressor is a small, acute, intentional dose of stress to make your body stronger. Our body responds well to stress. That's how the human species evolved. That's how all species evolved. By applying stress, you grow from the stress, as long as it's not a chronic stress that overloads your stress bucket, right? It's like we're kind of knocking on the door to go, physiology, wake up, turn all the machinery on and work better. It makes us stronger. And I think there hasn't been enough education specifically with cold plunges for addressing your physiology, particularly your gender, for time, duration, frequency. And I've seen a lot of women either shy away from it completely, or they're like every single day, max amount, and then they completely burn out. So there's just not a lot of nuance and personalization from what I've seen there. I personally love cold plunging, but there's got to be variability. There would have to be listening. You're cold plunging. I guess the way that you do it has to change day to day. So that's part of the listening and checking in with your body. What kind of stress and how much stress do I need today? It's going to change. And then I don't know how much we want to talk about the GLP-1s, but people are jumping to that. And I think there is a lot of benefit, perhaps if you are at severe metabolic or cardiovascular risk or severe neurodegeneration. I think it can kind of help you get over the hump. But if you're not doing the lifestyle and the nutrition changes, it's only going to get you so far, and actually could set you back in a lot of ways without doing the foundational stuff. And I feel like we all here could rattle off 20 people that we know easily that are on that. They're probably not doing the foundations.
Right. And we're just here offering our opinions. We're not offering medical advice. There is absolutely none of this is to be taken as a practitioner consultant. We have no relationship with anybody in the audience. We're just talking from our own experiences and what we think about the products or the protocols.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Renee, did you want to offer something on that?
Well, maybe a little bit of a tangent. I think, like you just brought up a great point. Like we're practitioners, so we also see what is working in our client base. Versus, I think on Instagram or social media, TikTok, you want to be a little bit careful of someone that is just promoting something that worked for their body. I'm not saying that they're lying; it probably did work for them, but just take note that that is such a bio-individual thing. So really assess, could that be right for me? Versus as practitioners, we've seen, we've run the gamut of what we see works and doesn't work across a bigger population. So just, be a little careful with that.
I think that's good advice. Very good advice.
Yeah.
But if you could strip it all down, you didn't have any devices, no supplements, no protocols. What would you say are the 3 most underrated keys to health? It's like getting to the basics.
Ooh, number one, I think just nature. If we put nature in a big bucket, and that includes morning sunshine, potentially seeing sunrise, sunset, getting out midday, high noon, grounding, getting your feet on the earth, getting fresh air, forest bathing, getting the negative ions from the earth. Like if we put all those into the bucket of nature, which is completely free and we can see benefits in all aspects of health just from nature, right? Our ancestors were really the original biohackers because they were doing all the nature biohacks and potentially thriving from that. And I think a lot of people are still just, indoors 90% of the day. Some people, it's probably 100%. They're going right from their house to their car to their office and back. So I think that's the number one thing that people are overlooking, and it's completely free.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I would put that as number one. I would say number 2 would be a consistent sleep schedule, like keeping your sleep wake up time very consistent and just optimizing sleep hygiene, just making sure the bookends of your day are really solid. And we can go more into sleep. We both love sleep, but we call Renee the sleep queen. And number 3 would be just in general, avoiding processed food and eating more real, whole food, organic food. And if you do those 3 things, like we definitely have less of a need for the tech and the supplements. Not saying they can't help, but you can accomplish so much, I think, with those 3 pillars.
Totally agree with you. I mean, I have gone from calling things processed food because people don't really get it to saying those food-like substances, because if they come in a box with all these ingredients in them, they're not real foods. They're just food-like substances. And I seem to get more, kind of realization, because they think if they pick up a package and it says chicken nuggets, that is real chicken. And I'm like, no, because there's no part of the chicken called nuggets, so
Yeah. Or how about when McDonald's, I heard they announced, now made with 100% chicken. It was like, what was the percentage before?
Yeah, that's the same as Aura. We made an update. Now it's accurate. It's like, oh gosh, what were we doing before? Yeah, 100% chicken. That's scary. Yeah, in general, if it has a label and they have to list out the ingredients, it's already not completely a real food. Of course, like I buy my beef in a plastic wrapper, which is not ideal, but at this point, it's really hard to access that without being wrapped in plastic, but it's one ingredient. I get cottage cheese also in plastic, not ideal, but it's one ingredient. And you start getting past 5 ingredients, you really need to question, is it a food? Is it a 4-letter word?
Totally agree. I think what you've said is right on point. It's people need to stop. I mean, we were always told to shop the perimeter, but I think also the big food has learned that people are learning to shop the perimeter. So they're sticking other things in the perimeter too. I don't know if you've noticed in your grocery stores, but when I go in, it used to be, you'd see like the fruit of the day up front, and now they'll have something behind it that has no relationship to the food. And I'm like, why aren't you stuck in that aisle over there where I don't go? And for me, shopping the grocery store is like the last thing I want to do. I shop at CSAs. I go directly to farms. I don't cut out the middleman. Just go to the people who make the food. I mean, I have a farmer for dairy, a farmer for meats, a farmer for produce. That's all I need. If I need something else, yes, I can pick it up in a grocery store, but it's not necessary, So I think people need to rethink it. Go to where the food actually is made. Go to the real place, because food isn't made in the grocery store. And I don't even think kids really know that. They think food, let's go to the grocery store and get it. Whereas you start teaching your children, let's go to the farmer's market and let's talk to the farmer, or go to the farm, actually visit the farm. Many farmers have days where they have people, or they're welcoming, groups of people to come in and learn about their practices, because it's such an open environment. They are so in touch with nature that they want to show everybody what they do. And I think it's really important. And then you just need to understand, you need to ask questions. What kind of practices you're doing, what are you using with your animals? What are you using on your plants? Making sure that you ask all those right questions, and then realizing that's where real food comes from, not from the store. But I agree. You can't get away. If you have to go to the store, it's going to be wrapped in plastic. You're not going to get the old butcher paper and they're going to hand it to you. Believe me, I'm old enough to know you go into the butcher and he's wrapping it in butcher paper and giving it to you. So I think we just need to re-educate not only our clients, but as a practice, in your podcast, in my podcast, just re-educate people what real food is. And I don't know that people understand that yet. And I think it's just something that they've got to hear over and over again.
Yeah. That's
absolutely.
so wise. And that's inspiring to me. I'm like, okay, I got to go find meat in butcher paper, because there's always a little bit more we could do. Try to not to stress about it, but it's like, oh yeah, I can up level. And just your comment about the perimeter, I have noticed that, like next to the strawberries, now you can also get shortcake and whipped cream right next to it. I'm like, what?
Yes.
What's that?
I have noticed that one too.
It's not produce that belongs in the middle, but they're like, we don't want you to forget the whole dessert bundle. So
Oh my gosh.
crazy.
It's so totally true. So let's move on with some ideas I want to ask you about. What is like one wellness practice that you feel is totally outdated or even harmful that people may continue to do because they've heard this is the thing to do?
One that's a little bit, it's been trendy for a couple of years, I would say, is mouth taping. So our dad, who you recently had on the show, he does the dental sleep medicine component. We learned this from him, the dangers of mouth taping. If you don't know if you have a fully clear nasal passageway and airway, you could actually be almost suffocating yourself while you're sleeping. But so many people on social media are like, oh, mouth tape every night, you'll sleep great. You might sleep great. You also might be causing more harm. So I think that's a really good trendy thing that should be, we should say bye-bye to.
It's one thing I hadn't thought of. Great. Thank you. Lauren?
Yeah.
I love that. I was going to say intermittent fasting, just because I think people are not doing it well for their physiology. Mainly I see women not doing it well, where they're like, oh yeah, I started fasting and now like I'm never hungry in the morning and I'm maybe not even hungry for lunch. And you wonder, like, why are you not hungry? You've taught your body to stop giving you hunger signals because you've taught it that there's, a pseudo famine in a lot of ways. But then they're eating so much at nighttime, and then they're getting hungry after dinner, and then they're doing a snack before bed, which for your metabolic health, for your glucose insulin, is really not optimal or efficient. But they're intermittent fasting. I'm really good at intermittent fasting, but we've missed this whole circadian optimization. Our glucose follows a circadian rhythm. So we really want to harness the powers of the sun and eat earlier in the day. So I think we need to flip the intermittent fasting. More people need to be doing it in the evening. I suppose you could argue maybe our ancestors ate any time of day when food was available, or, traditionally farmers will be working all day fasted and then sit down and eat a big meal. But they were in nature all day. They were eating real home cooked food. We're not eating that, and we're spending so much time indoors. So to put this stress on your body, on a computer, blue light, toxins, and then you're eating a massive meal that's not organic at 8 p.m., that's just really not efficient. So I would love people to shake that up and kind of start over. Like, I just think we've gotten intermittent fasting wrong in a lot of ways.
I totally agree with you. I gave a talk on intermittent fasting and people were asking specifics. And I said, it's going to depend on your own biochemistry. I said, but here's the thing. You're not shoving it all into one place. You're not, packing it down to one meal where you eat everything and then you're done, because that's not the way the body works.
Yeah.
And most people have gotten this notion that it means fasting and you don't eat except for this narrow window, rather than eating as you're hungry. And that's the one thing I tell people: you eat when you're hungry. That's what your body's trying to tell you. That's why you have these hormones, because the hormones are meant to say, oh, by the way, I'm hungry now, I need something. That doesn't mean to eat a big meal. That means satisfy the hunger, move along, and then in between make sure you're drinking plenty of water. And I think I've heard the same thing, like, well, I'm just having this big meal late in the day because I fasted all, and I'm thinking, oh my God, now you're going to go to bed with all this food in your stomach. Again, that's a great idea to make people aware that it's not what you think it is, and you actually have to go beyond the surface. With both of them, you have to go beyond the surface of things and really get into the meat, so to speak, of what it means to do whatever protocol you're doing.
Yeah. And I've heard so many counter arguments to me advising eating earlier in the day. And one big one is, well, I don't eat in the morning because it makes me feel sluggish and then I can't focus. I'm like, well, you're eating the wrong thing then. Like, we just food is bad in the morning rather than looking at what we're eating. And in terms of, I love that intuitive call to like eat when you're hungry and drink when you're thirsty, but a lot of people don't have that proper signaling because we're not eating real food or because there's a high toxic burden. So some people don't even know what their hunger should be. So the first step, again, is coming back to the organic, real food so that you get that normal signaling from your brain. And then we can figure out, oh, okay, this is what I am supposed to be eating. That would be more natural. That would be more intuitive. So it's a process. It takes some time, but we can do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the key right there. People are not, it's like with the pill, just give me a pill so I'll feel better. They don't want to take the time to learn what their body needs. And that's what holistic health is about. It is about respecting the body that tells you exactly what it needs. And it's for people who don't understand the body, it's like learning a new language. The body has signals of all different sorts, whether it's pain or hunger or whatever it is. Those signals mean something. And if people aren't aware of what it means, it takes time to learn it. And it takes time. And that's why people like you are very helpful to help interpret those things and get people back on the natural track where their bodies are their guide, not something out here. It's something here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know you're both entrepreneurs and performers, but how do you biohack creativity? And how do you it's a high pressure world you live in. So how do you keep that, mental clarity and use biohacking for creativity?
Well, I never thought I was a creative person. I always wrote that off, even though I was a dancer. I never was into the choreography side of things and teaching. I was like, I'm a performer. I'm not creative. But I had a very eye-opening experience about 20 years ago. Our dad found out about this machine called the Light Portal. And there were only, I think, 4 in the entire country. And there happened to be one down the street from my house in Tampa, Florida. So I took that as a sign from the universe. Okay, I need to go try this thing out. And I get in there, and we joke it kind of looks like almost like a big coffin. You've maybe seen it at the Julian Center, but it's using crystals, vibration therapy, binaural beats, color therapy, and it's basically putting your body into a parasympathetic state pretty quickly. And you lay in there for an hour. And the first time I went in there, I started having like business and marketing ideas and strategy ideas. And I'm like, where is this coming from? I had never experienced that before in my life. And so it was really eye-opening in two senses. One, I was stuck in a sympathetic state pretty much 24/7. I was a type A stressed out person. My body didn't even know what parasympathetic felt like. So that was eye-opening. But then it was also, oh, when I get into that state, my body can talk to me. My brain can get more creative. And so for me, I incorporate two things every single day into my routine. I use a PEMF mat, so it's grounding my body. And then I combine that with something called the brain tap, which is using audio and visual, light and sound. Again, putting your body into a parasympathetic state. You can actually do different brain waves. You can do theta, delta, beta, alpha, depending on what you're looking for. But if I put it on theta, I get into that creative state. So if I have a problem I need to solve, that's what I do. And it's like, it blows my mind every time the things that come to me. I'm like, oh, that would be a good Instagram reel, or that would be a good podcast topic. So that's how parasympathetic equals creativity for me.
I agree with that 100%. And also just, I love the technologies that Renee is using, and I'm using those as well. But just creating the space for down regulation and quiet time and doing less, and mainly not consuming food information, like any inputs into your brain, allows this downtime for your brain to actually talk back to you. And I think that's what creativity is, right? Like your brain is able to turn on in a different way and have new thoughts and inspiration. Like the light bulb turns on, but when you're consuming, that's really dampened quite a bit. So I found just any type of quiet time, like walking in nature. I've done plant medicine, which has helped me to slow down and be more present so that I can access more creativity. I find that play time, I want to just sort of like dance around and make up songs in my living room. And I think that just keeps that skill kind of turned on. And, there's other benefits from that playtime because we experience more joy. We tend to be less stressed. So we downregulate cortisol. We get into a parasympathetic state. Like this all is this positive feedback loop that continues to spin in that direction if we feed it or just allow it. So I think there's a lot of great ways, but I think mainly what Renee said, just getting into a parasympathetic state where we're sort of like in rest digest mode, that creative part of the brain can turn on. And just one other thing, I've read a few books that have really helped me to unlock that creativity because I went through the same thing. I was like, I grew up as a dancer, but I don't feel like I'm creative. Like, don't make me choreograph. Don't make me create. I don't know. I can't do that. But one book was called The Path of Least Resistance by Robert, I think his name is Robert Fritz. And he talks about creative problem solving versus like this linear structure that we were taught as children where everything is just sort of binary, black and white, yes or no. We're not taught to access feelings. We're taught and designed to say yes or no to people. And he really accesses a whole other structure where it's like, we have A, B, and C doors you could walk through. Like you really can design your reality in so many ways. That book was so very eye-opening for me. And Elizabeth Gilbert, who's like the Eat, Pray, Love author, she wrote a book. Can you remember the name of this book, Renee?
No, I haven't read it.
About creativity. I wonder if I could Google it really quick. But she also was like, she inspired me to think like, oh, I am. We're all creative. You don't have to be an artist to be a creative. We're all creative. We are born into this world as creative types, and we can hold on to that so easily if we allow it. I'm going to think of it.
Yeah, okay. I haven't heard of that one.
I just wanted to respond to that. So I feel what you're doing is you're protecting your energy. Because this world, especially when you're doing podcasts and you're online and you've got to have content because it's constant, you've got to keep yourself out there. You're being in this, in nature and doing the things that allow you to, go into the parasympathetic. Honestly, I think you have found your biohack to keep you safe, keep your energy safe. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a good way to word it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we have more life force, more energy, more power to deal with what comes at us in life because yes, we're protecting it. Or
That is excellent. I don't know how many people realize how valuable just protecting your energy is. I mean, going out in nature. I mean, people think I'm crazy. I walk up to trees and I hug them. You know, we go for walks, and I especially hug the trees that have like cars that have hit them and the bark has been removed. I go up and I touch them and I tell them they'll be okay. And people, I don't care if they think I'm
Aw.
crazy, because there's some sort of energy exchange, you know? And I feel like the one tree that I do this all the time, I feel like it's staying there because it knows I'm coming back to tell it it's okay. But
Oh, I love that.
well, I think that's because I love nature. I love animals. I love plants. I mean, I love being outside. I rescue the bees that have fallen in the water. It's just a way of living for me. And it's changed over time because I was in the rat race. I did the corporate stuff and I realized it was killing me and I had to get out. And now that I'm out, I can't go back. I just can't go
No.
back. I wasn't
No.
raised as you were, because I would have loved that, because that's my nature, is to be in nature. So I love that you guys have grown up in a natural way.
yeah. I also
Yeah.
love that you've found purpose in doing that because I think that protects our energy and gives us longevity, having purpose. So when people are ill or really stressed, often finding a purpose in something outside of themselves is really what can actually support their healing. Sometimes people take it too far where they're taking care of so many other people or other things that they neglect their own self-care. So it is a balance, but I think it's like if we can have self-care and we can have purpose, then we can really protect our energy and continue to build resilience.
Yes, perfectly said.
Yeah.
So, what do you do when things fall apart for you? Like, do you have sick days or heartbreak, or do you burn out? What do you do? How do you manage?
I call my sister and I go, help me.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's number one. I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you say, Renee?
Yeah, we definitely lean on each other. Like, what else can I do for this or whatever? Knock on wood, I haven't had a sick day in over a year and a half. So I think I've really learned in the last 2 years, I would say I really have learned when my body is feeling like overwhelmed or fatigued, where I might be susceptible to getting sick, and I can like stop in its tracks. I prioritize my sleep, maybe a little bit of fasting, really focusing on hydration, sauna, immune supporting supplements. I really prioritize all of those things because sometimes life gets in the way. You can't do that every single day. But if you can watch for the signs of saying, I'm feeling a little run down, I need to prioritize this, that's huge. But, there's still a part of me that can be a little bit of a people pleaser and say yes to too many things. It's a constant battle. So sometimes I have to just, take a step back. What can I take out off my schedule for the moment? Come back to my priorities, putting myself first. It's not selfish. We all need to be doing that. And yeah, it's a constant learning lesson, but here
Yeah,
we are.
that's a tricky one. I come back to my instinct and saying like I rely on people close to me to help me like breathe through, and if I'm stressed or overwhelmed, like sometimes just having an outlet where I can unleash that and get it out and have a moment and have someone hold space for me, that really helps. I don't know that I've really taken many sick days in my life. And to be honest, as an entrepreneur and someone that creates my own schedule, it actually causes me more stress having to cancel because then I have to rebuild the whole schedule. So one, like Renee said, preventing is the magic. And that's why we do what we do. It's like you get so in tune with what's coming that you can really prevent in a lot of ways. And on the chance that you do get sick or you're feeling burnt out, I will go through my schedule and I'll go through like what's the minimum that I need to do today to not cause me stress tomorrow within the next week, or what can I get through today that's not going to push me over the edge so I can also rest. So it's constantly like making small edits so I can create balance. But for me, like taking an entire sick day would be completely stressful and probably add a burden to my illness. So it's to each their own, but hopefully everyone has someone that they can lean on for support when they need it, and do the prevention as much as possible.
Well, like you said, you're not just partners in wellness, you're sisters. And I'm certain that has its own power and pressure come behind it. How is it working together that you stay sovereign in your own health beliefs, even if you're challenged by the other ones? Now, I granted you probably have very similar ones, but I'm certain that there are things one wants to do one way and one wants to do it the other way. How do you stay sovereign in that?
Well, I think one of our things that took a couple of years was I'm on the West Coast, Lauren's on the East Coast. I don't start before 9:30 a.m. Pacific. That's just, I'm not really a morning person. And my mornings, I want time to get my morning sunshine. I want to do some grounding, some breath work. Like that is, my morning time is so sacred to me. And I used to be like, oh, sure, I'll start at 8 a.m., whatever, because you're on the East Coast. Everyone's on the East Coast. I'll do whatever everyone on the East Coast needs to do. But over time, I was like, it's killing my day. It's killing my day by not preserving that morning time. So to both of you on the East Coast, thank you for starting at 9:30 my time today. Yeah, that was one big thing. And just by protecting my mornings, I can show up and be more present and be more focused. So that was a big one.
And that goes for me as well. So when I'm going to bed, Renee often is like deep in emailing, and she just knows like at some point I may just trail off. And I used to feel bad if I didn't wrap things up and be like, I'm going to bed, anything else? But now sometimes, I just disappear, and she respects that. Yes. But I just think if you respect your circadian rhythm needs, so consistent sleep-wake schedule, good morning routine, evening routine, if you can respect that, so much else can just be in flow. And we're very lucky. We have a lot of similarities, and we have the same beliefs around health practices. We have slightly different strengths, which actually really complement each other. So in business, it works so well, so well. And we're just lucky. I don't really know how to tell people how to curate that. But yeah, honoring our own needs and just always being upfront with that. I feel like setting boundaries just helps protect any relationship that you enter into.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had times where maybe we have a call or a podcast and one of us is really dealing with something, whether it's health-wise, personal life, stress, and that one of us will be like, I got it. I'll show up. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. So we're really lucky to have the partner, sister duo in that way.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So what if your podcast ended tomorrow? What's the one message you want every listener to take with them for life, that this is what it's all about?
I would say never stop asking questions.
That's what I was going to say.
If you remain curious, if you are firm in that there's always more to learn, and not just there's endless education, of course, but with your body, our bodies are dynamic. Our health is dynamic. We don't have the same cells today as we will in a week from now. So we can't just be locked into what's working for me today is going to work forever. And in some ways you could say that sucks. That's annoying and frustrating. But if your skill and your superpower is getting curious and listening to your body, then you'll always find the answers. So if we could impart just that, you are your own intelligence, keep asking questions, and I guess if I was going to make the list longer, keep asking questions and keep being honest with yourself. Right. A lot of truth comes out of honesty.
Yeah. Do you want to expand on that, Renee, since it was the same thought that you had?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that just popped into my head, what you said about being honest, I heard this video on Instagram the other day, and I thought this was so good. The guy said, if there were to be a movie about your life and people are in the audience watching the movie, and you've watched horror films where you're like, no, don't go in that door. No, don't. If they were watching your life, what would they be screaming at the screen? Is there something that you should be changing that you're not being brutally honest about? If the audience would be, stop eating the gluten, I don't know, whatever it would be. So I thought that was a cool thing to think about. Your life is a movie. What are you not being honest about?
That's so good. That's so confronting for me. I'm like,
right? I know. That was so good. And then also I think with the continuation of asking questions is, for me, I have struggled with a lot of health issues. And so many times I've had practitioners, traditional, alternative, holistic, biohackers, whatever, say, you're perfectly healthy. Your labs are normal. I can't tell you, there's nothing else you can do. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I don't feel as good as I think I should. And if you're saying that to yourself, keep asking questions, listen to podcasts, talk to practitioners, and then also pay attention to what the universe is trying to show you. So I love like the rule of threes. So if you heard about something on one podcast and then you saw it on Instagram and then someone else mentioned it, take that as a sign that's something that you need to explore further, because it happens all the time. It's crazy.
Yes,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
universe brings it to you.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really
Oh
does.
my gosh, I see it constantly where I learn something and I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I learned that today. Like I needed it today. Maybe I actually needed it a week ago, but today I'm really ready for it. And
Right.
it happens constantly with myself and with my clients. Like it's just divine timing. And I think if you can trust that and just stay in the moment. And I just wanted to share a real world example about the honesty. So me personally, I've dealt with back issues. I've had a lot of injuries from dance performance. But I know, because they keep asking questions, it's not just structural. There's not just injury to my muscle and my tissues. Like there's an emotional component, there's a lymphatic component, there is a hydration component. And so every time I feel like, oh, I've unlocked this and I've figured it out, it's like, oh no, I have to remember that my body's dynamic, it's always changing. I have to keep going to all these spokes of the wheel and nourishing all of these foundations. I can't just foam roll every day and I'm going to be fine, right? I have to protect all of these systems. And I think we're always looking for that one answer that can solve the problem, but it's never one thing. I think Renee and I agree on that. It's never one thing. It's all of the things. That's what holistic health is. It's all of the spokes on the wheel coming together.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, share about your podcast and your practice so people can know where to find you if they want to follow you.
Yeah. The best place to find us would be the biohackerbabes.com. That's our podcast, the Biohacker Babes. We come out with an episode every Monday, working on episode 304 at the moment. So stay tuned for that. And then we're pretty active on Instagram, biohacker_babes. People can message us there. It's the two of us checking the messages. So we'll get back to people. And yeah, we would love to connect and hear what people want to learn more about.
Yeah. And if you want to just personally reach out to us by email, it's biohackerbabes@gmail.com is the easiest way to get through to us like now.
Well, Lauren, Renee, thank you so much for your honesty, your wisdom, and your realness. I mean, putting it out there for everybody. And I ask everybody, if you're listening and you're ready to upgrade your life with more clarity and sovereignty, definitely check out the podcast, Biohacker Babes. Please subscribe, like, and share this podcast with everybody. There's somebody who needs this information. Maybe it's you, maybe it's somebody you know, but I hope you'll join us again for the next Sovereign Sisters. And until then, be well and God bless.
Thank you.